In this video, we're going to look at the contents of a mini survival kit. Hi guys, Paul from Warrior Tactical Systems. In this video, we're going to look at the contents of a tiny survival kit. This is a homemade survival kit. I made it probably 5 or, I don't know, it might even be longer, 5 or 10 years ago for my brother, and I made one for my dad also. Really handy, they're really small, and it's got a good variety of things you'll need. It was kind of assumed that you would already have your knife on you. My brother and dad always carry a pocket knife, so keep that in mind. I recommend a pocket knife anywhere you go. But we'll look at some of the contents we have here in this little, I just used the Altoids 10 for mints and to make my case here. So I have a variety of things in here. We'll kind of touch on each one. You could come up with a lot of other ideas of things you can do with these things, but we'll just give you a rough idea. So here's some wire for snares. I can't remember what gauge I used. It's been too long since I messed with it, but I got it from Ron Hood's videos, and it was the gauge that he recommended. But this wire, it can be used for snares. It can be used for fishing as a leader if you need to. You could repair equipment with it. Shelter, binding things together if you needed to. You could cut off or break off a little piece of it, magnetize it, and use it as a compass if you needed to. Just a lot of uses, and that's what we want. We want everything in here should have multiple uses. And that includes the rubber bands. You can use these for traps, projectiles, to hold things on, to repair things, all kind of different stuff. We have a button compass, which is just a tiny little compass here, and it has a little place in the back where you can run a watch through it or something like that to keep it on you. But obviously a compass is used for navigation, so a real important tool to have. Fire is obviously a critical component, especially in a cold environment, but even in an environment where you need to purify water or whatever it might be. So we have some redundancy in this kit on different things you can use to build fires with. I have this little baggie, which the baggie itself obviously could be used to keep your tinder dry, to keep your matches dry, anything like that, carry water. But I have some matches in here, and I have a striker for the matches in the back, and then I have some steel wool. So the matches obviously you could start a fire with. The steel wool can be used if you have some batteries to start a fire as well. And probably some other uses. If you can think of any, please leave a comment on some of the stuff. I have some duct tape here, and it's been too long, I can't remember the exact distance. I measured them out pretty consistent on each kit I made. But plenty of uses for duct tape. You could use this to cover wounds if you needed to. You could use it to repair your shelter or help build your shelter. You could actually make cordage out of this. I've made a lot of cordage with duct tape just playing around, and you can use that for a bow drill or something similar. So a lot of good uses, covering blisters, that kind of thing. Back to the fire starting, I have a wet weather fire starter here. What this is just a cotton ball that's dipped in Vaseline, covered with it real well, petroleum jelly, and then it's wrapped in wax paper, and I have a bread twist tie around it. So that wax paper and cotton ball with that in it, you can soak this in water. In fact, I have another video on how to use that. You could soak this in water and it was still light. So it's a real good wet weather fire starter, and it'll burn for a little bit. So if your wood's a little bit wet, this will be burning to get those twigs started for you. The actual bread tie itself, again, you have a little piece of wire there. You could cut a piece off the wire and use that to make a compass. If you can magnetize it and get some water, you could use it for anything that you can use the wire for. So again, multiple uses. I got a kind of a heavy duty piece of foil here, and I have another piece of foil in the bottom just because there was room. The foil, you have tons of uses for it as well. You could cook in it, boil water in it, use it as a signal. With the light, you can put it on something and reflect the sun to signals to someone. You can use it as a reflector for your fire, so it's kicking heat back on you. And you know, also you can make a foil helmet so the aliens can't read read your brain waves, you know, or the CIA or whatever. Alright, we got some string in here. So the string, you know, again, so many things you can do with it. Shelter, you know, help binding things together to build the frame of your shelter. It can be used for traps, kind of replace the wire if you don't have enough of it. You know, you can put fish on it as a stringer if you need to, if they don't have too sharp a teeth. You can create a bow drill, you know, using the string as part of the bow drill. Just a lot of good uses for string. And I can't remember the exact distance I have in there anymore. It's been too long. Fishing line, again, I had a certain distance I made each one on, and I can't remember. But obviously you could be using this for fishing, would be a very good use of it. But you know, anything that you use string for, you can do this to some extent. You can use it for thread to repair clothing or cloth as well. I have a razor blade in here, even though you should have a knife on you. Again, you want that redundancy, so it never hurts to have that razor blade. You know, this can be used to cut up animals for food, cut up plants, cut up, you know, whatever you need. Cut the string, cut your cloths, whatever you might need to cut. It could also be used, say, with a battery to, you know, conduct electricity on one end to, again, heat it up to build a fire. You could use it to scrape a flint to create fire. So, you know, a ton of uses, and there's probably others I'm not thinking of. Now, one thing that's really handy, and you might want to zoom in on this. This is a striker flint for a torch, and basically this is your fire starter. When you scrape a piece of metal off of that, you'll create a spark, and you could create thousands of sparks with this little piece here. So you know, a very handy tool. And basically what I did, I took a little threaded screw here, and I just put a little bit of super glue on the end of it, cut off the very point of the end, and screwed that on so you got something to hold while you're doing it. But I keep these on my key ring, and they're just really handy to have a striker at all times. Those will light your cotton ball really well. Okay? So again, another fire starter option, and it works even in wet weather. I have some fish hooks here, and what I did is I just took some a piece of paper and put some tape over the top of them, masking tape, so they'll just pop right out of the bottom of that paper. It's just a good way to mount them. I got a couple longer hooks, and I got some small ones. So again, you can use those for fishing. You know, in a survival situation, you can also create traps with them. You can fish for birds, essentially. Put something on there and leave it for a bird and have a string attached to it, so once they eat it, swallow it, it hooks them. That would be, I think, illegal most of the time, but for a survival situation, you do what you gotta do. And that includes other animals as well that you can use those for. I got a couple Band-Aids just because they're small and they fit in here, and you know, good uses for Band-Aids if you get some kind of injury, blister, etc. I got a Ziploc bag, which you could use to, you know, you could haul water with it. You could keep tinder dry. You could actually build a fire with it by putting water in it if the sun was out, and then, you know, making a ball out of the water and using that to reflect the sun rays, kind of like a magnifying glass. And I've seen people actually use that to light something with the sun. So possibility, I've never personally done it yet, but you know, I know it can be done. So a lot of good uses for that. I got another piece of foil in here. It's kind of thinner foil, but we've already talked about that. Same concepts and uses. And then I have some split shot, some lead sinkers for the fishing line. Got about 3 of them, small ones. Of course, the tent itself could be used, you know, possibly to signal with. It's kind of a reflective surface. You could maybe boil a little bit of water in it if you didn't have anything else. You can make char cloth with it, so you cut some pieces off your t-shirt, put them in here, close it up. You probably have to poke a little hole. I don't know how much air will get around this, and you put that in the fire, and you burn up the cloth inside without it touching the fire. Take that out once it stops smoking, and you have char cloth, and that char cloth will catch a spark really easy. So you can use your sparker to continue to build fires for days after your initial one's gone, your initial fire starter. Okay, so you can see that's very small. You can put one of those in your car. You can throw it in your pocket if you go in the woods or go somewhere. There's really no excuse not to keep one on you somewhere. And you can make one of these really cheap. I don't know how much I spent on this, but it was very little. So, definitely worth having. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Okay, what other uses of these items did I not cover? What else could we do with these things? And what do you keep in your survival kit? Please leave a comment below, and like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.